because I thought it would be more appropriate for me to have a boy's name, considering I was so into boys' activities. The 500 miles race, but
Yes.
500 miles race, is that what we were talking about? Yes, of course. So it's 1935, we have the 500 miles race. It is 500 miles long, 180 laps of the track. Very important. Now this is a very significant 500-mile race which has been taking place before, you see, but it's the first time that women were allowed to get involved in the race. Yes, there was 4 of us, myself, Miss Kate Peter, Gwenda Stewart and Doreen Evans, among 33 cars, 16 of which only finished. You see, the 500-mile race is very unique, you see, in that it is a race of endurance as much as anything else. So half of the cars didn't manage to finish, such as mine, you see. Unfortunately, it was my driving partner's car, Mr. Reg Parnell, he had an MG, but unfortunately we had issues with our timing gears about 3 hours in, so we weren't able to finish. But I tell you what, there was some wonderful little mini cars, the MG midgets going around with Doreen Evans, cars about this big, this high, going 107 miles an hour. Can you believe that? I know.
Very fast.
You see, they managed to start 24 minutes before John Cobb and his Napier Railton. Of course, he had to start from scratch.
Oh, on scratch?
Yes.
I know this term. It
Yes.
comes from horse racing. Does anybody else know what starting on scratch means? No, it comes from horse racing where the starting line was scratched into the race course. Now, if you had a handicap, because your horse, or in this case car, was smaller, you'd start further forward as a helping hand to make things more fair. So if you start on scratch, you start right back at the beginning.
Very well done, Miss Jennings. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Goodness me. Of course, there are other horse racing terms used in motorsport. I don't suppose any of you know those ones?
Any? So the paddock that we just walked through, that's
Yes.
the paddock holding horses, holds the cars, and of course horsepower.
Horsepower, to describe how powerful a car can be. Yes, it was rather impressive, wasn't it?
Yes, I have to say, just walking past, I could see that the track was in a terrible state. There was all sorts of cracks in it.
Well, Miss Jennings, it is 30 years old. That can happen when a track is around for 30 years. It's very old. I imagine it will be there forever, personally. But yes, unfortunately, it's rather busy. Of course, there was a few accidents on the track, even in the race today.
No.
Yes, did you hear about McKeer?
No, I did not.
McKeer, you see, he came second in the race, you see, but unfortunately, when he was going around one of the bends, his tyres seemed to have a real problem, and they just kind of, well, exploded.
They exploded?
Yes, the tube, well, maybe that's a little bit hyperbolic, but the tubing did come out of the inner ring of his tyre and sort of started bouncing around the track like pieces of macaroni.
Like macaroni?
Like macaroni.
My goodness.
McCure beaten by pasta, that'd be a good title for your article, I
I'll
think.
quote you on that.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and Mr. Brackenbury as well, did you hear about him?
No, I did not.
Well, he completely lost his undercarriage.
He did what?
Of the car, his undercarriage of the car.
Right.
It was coming down the home straight, the undercarriage came complete off, and he scraped his bottom all along the track.
Oh my.
I know, it was rather unfortunate, but luckily the course medics are seeing to him now, putting a lot of plasters on his bottom, so I imagine he'll be okay.
Oh, well, that's supposed to know.
Absolutely.
It does seem terribly dangerous. You don't get still scared.
Well, I suppose I do sometimes, but when you have a passion such as driving, you've got to do everything you can to push forward and keep going with it, you see. It is unthinkable to give it up for me, because it is something that I love more than anything else in the world. I say, I don't suppose any of you have anything that you love like that, a passion? We've had, what have we had, I've heard about today? Cycling, motorbikes, football, things such as that. Have we got a football? Yes, have you got a passion, have you, madam?
Can't think of one.
There's loads of, I mean, there's so many out there, aren't there?
Swimming.
Swimming!
That's
Oh my
a very
goodness,
good one.
it's a great passion. You see, when you do things like that, and when you're doing it, don't you feel that nothing can stop you when you're doing it, whether it's football or swimming, you feel unbelievable when you do it, you couldn't stop for anything. Do you get that feeling as well? That's how I feel about driving, you see. So that's why I've just got to keep on doing it.
But what about those of us who still like racing but don't want to be behind the wheel? Is there anything else?
Well, there's a few other things that can be done in here. For example, we've got the car. In fact, I'll show you his. He should be in there. Let's have a look. Jonathan! These clerks are so lazy. Do you want to come in?